Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. Let's start the show.
This is a podcast on the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Welcome to Super Movie Brothers, episode 137. I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
Hey, Jay.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Got your head to the sides and I'm angry.
What'd you get down to doing this week, my friend? What were you up to? Did you go golfing?
Unfortunately not.
Did you do anything golf related? You always have something golfy to do.
I did not. I went to our brewery for Valentine's Day, solo, Broken Goblet Brewery, and I bumped into an ex-girlfriend's brother.
Okay.
And he was on a second date. But it was actually kind of charming. They were both really cool people.
Do you know any personal details about him where you could just really blow up his spot and just be like, hey, man, you remember that time we were partying so hard you shit your fucking pants?
Nah. He's a delightful young man. I like him a lot. He's a good guy. But it was just a good chit chat. You know, they're good people. It was a lot of fun. It was cool music. It was good to see the guys again. And then 2 days later, I suddenly got an invite last minute for a little babysitting session for my future, I guess you can say nieces and nephews.
That's so hilarious because I would never leave my child with you.
Babysitting sucks. Adult men don't babysit things.
Like I would be, if I left, like I might like run to the corner store for a few minutes while you watch my kid, but anything more than 5-10 minutes and I don't know what I would come back to.
Yeah, an 11-year-old and two 8-year-old twins.
And they're an 11-year-old and two 8-year-old twins.
A boy girl. Yeah.
Okay. How did you make it? How'd you survive?
Well, luckily the time frame was on my side because I was there at 7:30 till 11:30.
So you just gave them the Benadryl and then you let them they went to bed.
The initial like 45 minutes was a little crazy.
Shh, time to go to sleep.
Yeah. They were like jumping into these couch cushions, you know.
That's right, yeah.
And then just doing that for a while.
You got it down. Tire them out.
Then we watched Disney Channel, you know, whatever kind of weird TV show was on at the time, and you know, and you played a Disney movie.
And you played on your cell phone and barely paid attention to anything they were saying to you.
Well, they were actually really into it. Like they were pretty quiet.
Right.
It was nice. And then the other girl, the older one, she's very mature. She kind of just went upstairs and started doing arts and crafts. And I was like, all right.
See, parenting 101. Just put a screen in front of them and hit them with the Benadryl. No, that's terrible parenting advice.
Then, you know, 9 o'clock, start your brushing teeth, read the kid, the one boy, a bedtime story, which was nice.
Right.
And that was that. I mean, it was great. And then by 10 o'clock, I was done.
And then you get out.
I put on La La Land, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever.
And then you get out the dart gun with the blowfish neurotoxin in it, just enough, not to kill them, just to put them to sleep. Oh. Down they go.
Just to make sure.
That's right. Uncle Jay's going to go look up RedTube now on his phone while you guys nap. I'm
going to get real happy ending time.
Don't go jumping on those couch cushions tomorrow.
But no, overall it was good. You know, I'm sure I'll be doing it again eventually, but you know, it was the last minute ask, and I was like, I had nothing planned that night, so I'm like, okay, sure, why not?
How desperate were they to call you? Like
probably pretty desperate.
Yeah. You were the on the list of people. I'd be like, shit.
I'm sure I was on the tail end.
Yeah,
but no, honestly, like I'm actually going to be taking those kids. My sister's getting married at Destination Wedding this June, and then I volunteered to take the kids 2 days before back home, so they had like a good solid 2 days alone without the kids on vacation because they're going to be there for a full week,
right?
And but I'm like, you got the kids for 5 days. Let me just take them for like the last 2.
You got dear old Mama J there to help you out. So
I don't even have to. I literally just have to be on the plane with them. That's it.
Oh, okay.
I leave the resort with them.
Again,
I watch
screens.
Exactly.
Here's a
I
screen.
watch them on the plane, and then right at the airport, their mom's going to pick them up. And I'm like, perfect. This is great.
Here's a screen. Just have that. Take it.
Oh, exactly.
Go.
The two youngest ones are very dramatic, so I'm a little concerned about them. Got to keep them a little bit separated to some degree. But I'm such a good brother, I decided to let my sister have a little alone time with her new husband without the kids.
Yeah, and you can always go to the doctor and casually ask, how much is an appropriate amount of Valium or Xanax to give a child? Well, so for me this week,
I'm gonna do the whole whiskey in a bottle,
Yeah, there you go. That's
the
right.
grandma trick.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Put a little nip in there.
Yeah, I think they're a little too old for bottles, so you're gonna have to find some.
Put it in their apple juice.
Yeah, some other clever delivery device. So for me this week, me and Lauren went to the Philadelphia Tattoo Convention on Saturday night. We I don't know if we planned on getting tattoos, but we wound up not getting anything because when you go to a convention, they have stencils and they have that they work off of. If you want something original, you're gonna have to pay them to draw it and stuff like that, and it takes up a lot of their time. And they got dozens of tattoos to do in a day, so a lot of times, a lot of them just want you to pick from the book. And there was nothing that I was in love with. Anything that I want to get, it's something I want to be in love with. It's going on my body permanently. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't anything that we were in love with, but we did walk around. We love looking at the art and stuff like that. And one of the things I realized, being at a tattoo convention, there are a lot of shirtless people. A lot of shirtless people, a lot of pantsless people. There's just because people are getting tattoos on their legs and stuff, you can't roll jeans all the way up to your hips, so you got to take the pants off.
Freeballing or underwear?
No, I mean there's usually something covering it, but even for a guy, if you wear boxers or you wear boxer briefs and you're getting something on your upper thigh or something done, it's gonna have to come off because they can't work with it there.
I've always wanted to go to one of those, but I never.
It's cool. I mean, so it's cool because they kind of have they call it a freak show, but it's not really like a freak show. They're people with extraordinary talents.
Well, Mike Pence would say it's a freak show, but
yeah, but there's one guy who's he's juggling knives on an 18-foot tall pole, he's just balancing on a pole.
That's admirable.
Casually juggling knives. While there's another guy who they called it the human tip jar. After his show was done, he handed people a large carpet stapler and said, "Tip me whatever you want. If it's $1, it goes on the chest or the back. If it's $5, it can go on the upper thigh. If it's $20, it can go on the ass cheek. If it's $100, you can staple it to the head of my dick."
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
No lie.
Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone paid that. I walked away. I told Lauren, I'm we're done. I'm not sticking around for that part. And she's like, it's not that bad. And I was like, looks bad enough to me. But it was a lot of fun, and we had a good time. We didn't get a chance to stay down in the city. We kind of got done a little late. We went down late, and it only runs until about 11 or 12. So by the time we were leaving, we were just ready to go home. It's just been it's been a hell of a time at work for both of us, both working in insurance in the winter and just recently having a snowstorm, ice storm, and it just means we're uber busy. So we just went home and we went to bed, and that was it. But we did get around to watching some things this week. So Jay, let's get into what are you watching?
What are you watching?
What are we watching?
I think he's trying to watch some illegal channel.
Always watching.
No, go past this part. In fact, never play this again.
What'd you get down to watching this week? Was there anything that you were enjoying you want to share with everybody?
Yes, quite a bit. I did go to the theater and I saw Bohemian Rhapsody once again.
Okay.
I just needed to get out of the house. It was the tail end when I was sick.
But you're also trying to see whether it's worth those Academy nods that it's getting.
As well.
I figured.
That as well.
We are getting ready to do our Academy Awards show.
Yes, and I needed a revisit. I needed to see it one more time, fresh eyes again, because I did enjoy it quite a bit, and I still did. It still held up just as much as I thought the first time around.
I think people were looking for I think they were looking for something deeper in there than what was given, and I think they were looking for more deep deep cuts into the history of it or into the bio, and it wasn't really about that. But I think what we got, the personal story of Freddie Mercury, was fantastic.
It's extreme. It's a well-made movie that focuses on movie.
It's a well-made movie,
and I'm saying on purpose because it is very schmoozy, and it's definitely focusing a little bit more on the creative aspect of Queen at the time, which is true.
Yeah.
But they definitely emphasized that because obviously the band did have a lot of hand producing this film.
Right, but they also emphasized the inner turmoil of Freddie Mercury. I mean, that's what
they did a pretty good job with that.
That's the whole second half of the film.
But
is that
they did a pretty good job with that, but they definitely tamed it.
Yeah,
because he was a lot more risque, even more so.
Well,
than what's portrayed on screen. And what's exciting for me is because I actually think that this movie obviously is going to be kickstarting a lot more future projects with bands and such.
Sure.
This is going to be with like the Hallmark card version of band movies, I think, in hindsight going forward. Because we have, Motley Crue coming out soon. You got Elton John's film coming out. There's going to be other, artists that are going to be coming out with films. And they have an interesting history.
You know what keeps them from doing a Beatles movie is the fact that it's probably so expensive to get the rights to use the Beatles music that they can't even.
There are films that have Beatles music. Actually, there is a great trailer that is actually about that. It's exactly where all of a sudden something happens. It's a silly little fantasy of sorts, but like the whole world does not know the Beatles or the Beatles music except this one guy, and he then becomes the greatest singer songwriter.
What do you mean?
Time.
People don't know about us? We're bigger than Jesus.
Exactly, and he does. He becomes that. So that looked like a lot of fun. I can't remember the name of the trailer or the name of the movie offhand, but
way to go.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Adorable.
All right. What else did you get around to watching this week?
I saw, very quickly, I'm going to just get into 2 mini-series from Netflix. The Assassination of Gianni Versace. Surprisingly very good. The first 4 episodes.
Is that Netflix?
Oh, was it FX originally?
It was the FX.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's True Crime, which was like...
Yep, well, it finally got to Netflix, and that's why I saw it. And I really saw it because I heard a lot of awards buzz about it. Darren Criss did a extremely good job portraying this guy, this assassin, this fucking serial killer. And I don't want to spoil it, but the first few episodes were phenomenal. And it's an interesting take on how they portrayed this series because, it backtracks from the big finale killing that he does of obviously Versace, and previously shows what he did leading up to that point. And then the final episode or 2, it just kind of goes back into like a little bit more of a backstory of him. And it's not as exciting or enthralling and nerve-wracking as the other previous episodes did, because it is pretty bonkers, and I must say it's worth a watch.
So Ricky Martin's in it.
He plays the longtime lover of Versace.
So anyway, so Ricky Martin's good in it, but like, does he sing at all in it?
No.
So no, she bangs, bangs. Oh baby, well she moves.
He just has a very good tan. He shows off his body a lot. He does a good job. He does a good job. And then other than that, this great little British series called Sex Education.
I want everybody together to go ahead and say, penis, 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 vagina, vagina, vagina.
Penis, penis, penis. Vagina, vagina, vagina.
It's like just so good. I was so really refreshingly surprised by this one because it's quirky, it's funny.
This is the one where Gillian Anderson plays a sex therapist, and her son is kind of having his sexual awakening in adolescence
of some sort. Yeah. Yes,
God, what a fucking strange thing that would be. Like if your mom was like a sex therapist, and how open she would expect you to be with her about your
it touches on all of that.
Life.
It does. It really does.
No,
Asia Butterfield is just fantastic. He's perfect in it. And this new girl, Emma McKay, who plays Maeve, is freakishly looks exactly like Margot Robbie. It's scary.
Yes, I did.
Scary.
I did watch the first episode.
She's
going to
have a career just playing the younger version of Margot Robbie. I'll tell you.
In the Margot Robbie bio.
Seriously,
biopic.
But
that's coming out soon.
I'm serious. I highly recommend this series. It is very well done. It's very original for the content, and it's just fun and engaging, and it's got a nice little twist of like 80s flair, but yet modern. It's still modern day, but it has like a little 80s flair twist, like with the clothing.
It is modern day. Everyone is reflecting.
Is that how it is now? Maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just an old man.
Late
anymore.
80s, early 90s. That's what that's what the kids are all into these days, Jay.
Yeah. That's about it, though.
So for me, I watched a Netflix original series as well. I did go out to the movie theaters and I did see Lego Movie 2. And I also saw Happy Death Day to You. And I will have 5-minute-ish reviews for those coming up. But I spent most of the weekend, Jay, watching Umbrella Academy on Netflix.
Is that my skirt?
Oh, yeah, this. It's very breathy on the bits.
Nice to see nothing's changed. Get up, we're going.
Where?
Save the world.
Oh, is that all?
I gotta tell you, I absolutely love it. Now, I didn't read the comic, but after the I didn't want to know anything about the comic until the show was done because I never read it. I did go read into it, and apparently they took a lot of liberties with the show. So I know there's a lot of people out there who are comic book purists and always get upset when they take the liberties. As far as I'm concerned, by watching it, the liberties that they took and the story changes that they made, I'm not going to say they improved it, but it's all just fine. It all worked for me, and I absolutely really enjoyed it. It's a little weird. It's a little kooky. There is a man with an ape body in it. It's got a monkey fucking butler. God damn it!
How many monkey butlers will there be? One at first, but he'll train others.
An honest to goodness monkey butler with effects that look as good as Planet of the Apes monkeys. Like
really?
Yeah. This chimp looks as good as Planet of the Apes. It looks good.
This series kind of came out of nowhere. This was not on my radar.
Right. And we're going to be talking about it a little bit in news when we talk about some of the Netflix news that dropped this week.
True.
About like why probably the future of Netflix and where they're going with some of their TV shows and their comic book properties really hinged on this being the first one that they put out. It's written by Gerald Way, who is the lead singer of My Chemical Romance. It was a big deal back in about like 2006 or 2008 when this came out. The book, it was a mini series, six issue series, and I remember it being very popular. I just never got around to reading it. And when the show came up, the name was recognizable to me, but the story was not at all. So me and Lauren kind of went into this blind and became extremely pleasantly surprised just with the presentation we were given. It is dark and moody at times, and then it's lighthearted. It always finds a way to make you laugh with the characters. All the characters are extremely well fleshed out in it, and I think that's the thing that makes you fall in love with it, is you fall in love with these characters. And it's about a group of young adults who are now dealing with the death of their father. They were once adopted by him at a young age. All of them have superpowers, and he was strict on them, and not even borderline, just totally emotionally abusive to them to prepare them to be the best heroes that they could be. And they all resent him for that. And now this is the first time they've been together for 17 years. So it kind of reminded me of like that movie with Adam Driver and Jason Bateman, This Is Where I Leave You, where all the kids come home and stuff like that for a funeral, and they're all forced to deal with the emotional baggage that they thought they were leaving behind forever in their lives. And there's some emotional points in that are really strong. There's some real fun that comes out of it as well that's really strong. And I encourage everybody to watch it, to give Umbrella Academy a shot. I know for someone like Jay, the logical leaps that it asks you to take in this crazy world is not something that Jay's going to be interested in. There's time travel. Like I said, there's a guy with monkey arms and an ape body. There's a guy who talks to dead people. There's all manner of people in this, and it all stems. It takes place in a world where JFK was not assassinated. So it's kind of like alternate universe, alternate dimension as well. So there's a lot to take in it, but I think that's just the setting. If that's your problem with it, then you're watching it wrong. You have to just really get into the characters themselves, and it's absolutely fantastic. And apparently it's Netflix highest reviewed shows in years, apparently. So it's apparently doing really well. Other people are out there enjoying it. So if you're holding off, definitely check it out, because I fucking loved it.
I'll think about it.
All right, Jay, you mentioned that you had movie homework to do, and you're not going to talk about one of the films, but you're going to talk about the other one here. So let's head over. Let's get into movie homework. All right, Jay, this one's all your movie homework. what was your movie homework this week? Go ahead, surprise everybody that you finally did it. You finally got it done.
Surprise. Willow.
I am a powerful sorcerer.
Yeah, Jay finally watched Willow. He was here on Sunday. We were recording our Patreon movie cocktail for Serenity. We recorded that with Sean Faust of the WDIM podcast, and I literally forced Jay to take Willow home.
You did.
I did. I put it on top of your bag.
I figured that since I was all the way down in the trenches already, why not just stay there a little longer and watch Willow? Get it over with. Just pull it off like a Band-Aid. Just right off.
You even told me you enjoyed Willow more than Serenity.
I think I enjoyed overall watching this movie more than Serenity.
It's produced by George Lucas. The story is by George Lucas. It's directed by Ron Howard, and it stars Warwick Davis and Val Kilmer, and was one of the biggest flops of 1988.
Well, it shows because you could tell they put a lot of money into this.
They put a ton of money into it, and it's actually one of the,
because this era. I mean, this is an old movie, 1988, and it looks like a Lord of the Rings epic scale.
So it's one of the first
from that back then. Oh my God, they must have put a ton of money into it.
It's one of the first films to really pioneer CGI. You know, young Sherlock Holmes had the knight that jumped out of the stained glass window fighting young Sherlock Holmes, and that was one of the first uses of CGI in live action. But the moment where he's turning the old witch into different animals, and then she morphs into herself, that was CGI. The dragon was part mocap, part CGI. So it was a pioneering film, and the technology that was used in this film went on to be used by James Cameron in Terminator 2. You know, a lot of movies started using technology from Willow into their films. So while it was one of the biggest,
it was
flops,
spotty. The CGI was very spotty,
but it's 1988.
Exactly.
It's pretty much flawless for that year as far as the use of it goes.
Right. I mean, it's stuff you'd never see, and it's extremely ambitious. I mean,
it was
obviously. I mean, the following, a dwarf as the lead hero, and has Val Kilmer.
That's right.
Sorry.
He was the biggest star in it.
He was.
Everyone else is virtually unknown,
and it's kind of cool that he was actually a little unhinged.
I'm really scared. No, don't. There's a peck here with an acorn pointed at me.
I wouldn't want to waste it.
Ha!
He wasn't playing so much a version of Han Solo, but he was kind of doing like a little bit more of like a rock star schlup version of a semi-hero, an anti-hero of some sort.
Yeah, exactly.
But like he has a really great comedic zinger when he gets a love potion put on him.
Oh yeah,
and he gets all la-di-da, just falling in love for Joanne Wally's character Sorsha. So it was really cool to see. Sometimes the movie is.
Why did you get so close to Sorsha? Were you mildly
Sorsha? I don't know.
Were you mildly turned on by the scene where him and her get into a fight and he pins her down and stuff like right?
Fucking hell!
I was a little kid watching that and I was mildly turned on as a kid. Like I always found that like very
because
sexy.
She's gorgeous in this movie and really kind of sexy in a weird way because
she's the bad girl.
She's the bad girl.
She's the bad girl. She's the evil witch's daughter.
And
so and everyone wants to make it with the evil witch's daughter.
And she fights, it was a fun movie to watch overall, and more than anything, it's earnest.
Right.
Like they're trying to make a really good epic fantasy story tale and have, this just like genuine by the heart, like loving relationship with this baby that they come across, just floating down the river, and they just want to just find love and find home for this baby and not sacrifice and not kill it. I admired it for that.
Not again! You're a great warrior and a swordsman, and you're 10 times bigger than I am, stupid.
But it was annoying sometimes, and it did take me a long time to watch this movie.
So the brownies probably you found grating, I'm sure. The tiny little short guys, the little pygmies. I'm sure you found them annoying. And I don't mean the little people like Warwick Davis and stuff like that.
They were like ant size.
What
or
about
something.
What about the large bald little person who when he picks up, he's like, this baby doesn't look sick, and he's holding it up and she throws up in his face, and then at the end of the movie a bird shits on his head.
I know. and of course, as soon as you see the guy, you know he's going to be that kind of guy.
He's going to be that guy.
That guy.
Right. He just looks like a jerk.
But it's funny. I mean, it is what it is. You need somebody like that.
So,
but overall, yeah, like, it's a movie. It's a movie that I surprisingly liked more than I expected to.
And you resisted it for so long.
I did, and it's not my movie. It's still not my kind of movie. Everybody knows that.
Movie homework is like Jay in prison. He resists the D for so long, and then he just accepts it and likes it.
Semi like it.
Gay for the stay, but not the whole way.
Yeah. I'm just a voyeur, not even masturbating in the corner, just passing by.
So this movie was one of my favorites as a kid, which is why I wanted you to watch it. I watched it a lot with my mom, of course, like as all movies that I was introduced to as a kid. And I really loved it. I loved Warwick Davis in it. I loved the story and stuff like that. But also, it was fantasy. You know, it's swords and magic and bad guys and prophecies and all this stuff. And I really gravitated to that as a kid. When I watch it as an adult, I do recognize its flaws. Like, one of the things that always bothered me about it is, while it's a world, it's not a built world. Like, I don't look at that and it's a memorable world, because at no point am I given like a map to understand like how far Warwick Davis has traveled, or where the borders and stuff are, or like where his village is and stuff like that.
Well, George Lucas wanted to have sequels.
So there's actually 3 books that are sequels.
Right.
So there are novels that go along with this. But the movie was such a flop that no studio would ever take it. And even getting the movie made was a problem. It was shopped around to every studio and turned down because sword and sorcery movies were not doing well.
Yeah.
Legend had come out and not done well. Labyrinth came out and did not do well.
Especially led by dwarves. I mean, it's not something you ever saw before.
Not accepted vernacular. Little person. Come on, man.
It says it in IMDb, dwarves.
Well, they're wrong. It's not dwarves. It's little people.
Oh, it's not updated yet? Okay.
No, it didn't update. But yes.
We're in 2019, yo. Update your shit.
But I mean, I still enjoyed the movie for what I got, and I didn't even recognize its flaws until I was older. So it had already ingrained itself in me as something that I love, as something that I don't mind going back to.
And I think a lot of people feel the same way as you.
Yeah, and because
honestly,
it was a flop.
for the last month or so, or even longer, that I kept on hearing about this movie because it's on my fucking homework. All of a sudden, I'm seeing pop-ups. It was everywhere. People, random podcasts, Twitter, like all kinds of stuff.
That's
like,
the power of a zeitgeist.
We're revisiting this show. Well, we're revisiting this movie. Oh, remember Willow? We're going to be talking about it. Stay tuned this weekend. And now I'm that guy.
It's the power of zeitgeist. I put it out there to you, and then everyone started bombarding you with it.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm good like that. You have no idea.
The power of Super Movie Brothers.
I even got Patreon people to start reaching out to you to get you to watch it. So
I saved my job.
Yeah. So you finally did it. But
I think this warrants a week off.
Well, we're not
from homework. Thank you.
But yeah, I absolutely loved it, and I'm glad that you at least found some enjoyment in it, and you're not salty on it. Now, that's you didn't like Serenity, and people can listen to that if they join our Patreon, where we do a movie cocktail for Serenity, which we had a lot of fun doing with Sean, but you just were not into that movie whatsoever.
No.
So I'm glad that you at least found some enjoyment in this. And you got to remember, like, at the time when this came out too, like, George Lucas had just got off one of the biggest flops of the 80s, Howard the Duck, and this was the next film that he produced after Howard the Duck, and it flopped again. So no wonder he kind of disappeared for a while and didn't come back until 1999 with The Phantom Menace.
It does make sense.
So, I mean, he had his hands in some other things. He actually started working closely with the Disney Corporation, Disney Parks, and started developing Star Tours and stuff like that with them. So yeah, I'm so happy that you liked it. I would like everyone to reach out to us on Twitter at SuperMoviePod. Let us know if you remember Willow, if you liked Willow, if it's something that you would like to revisit, because I absolutely love this movie, and I had to, because I gave Jay my copy, to rewatch it before you did your movie homework.
I left it in my car, by the way, Dave. Don't forget me.
I had to rent it.
I have to go get it.
I had to rent it. I actually had to rent a movie that I owned because I gave you my copy. Because if I told you had to rent it,
I know
it wasn't going to happen.
That's true. That is very true, Dave.
So we both made sacrifices this week.
We did, for the greater cause.
Let's get the music queued up, because I got 2 5-minute-ish reviews to do. All right, Jay, I got 2 5-minute-ish reviews to do. Now, you won't have a lot of talking to do here because you didn't see either of these movies, nor would I expect you to, because these are not up your alley at all. But the first one is up my alley. It is Lego Movie 2, the second part. So I loved Lego Movie, the original one.
I hear it's good.
Yeah, it is really good. You know,
You may as well put it on movie homework because that's the only way I'm going to see it.
Lord and Miller, did a fantastic job with that movie, and they're back again here for the second part.
It's like it knows our every move.
Weird, right?
Emmett!
What? Aliens took Lucy and the others. Everyone suit up!
You almost forgot me, guys. I'm literally a lantern. How did you miss me?
Eat it and weep. You're welcome.
So the synopsis for it goes, Emmett, Wildstyle, and Batman are back. 5 years have passed since the crew ruined President Business's Taco Tuesday plans. But now, instead of living in Bricksburg, they inhabit Apocalypseburg, the remains of their former town after the attacks of the Duplo from the Star system. Now, Emmett must rescue his friends from Queen Whatever Wannabe by learning the skills of a master destroyer from his new ally Rex, who pilots a fist-shaped spaceship that is crewed by velociraptors. Are you confused yet, Jay?
Yeah.
All right, man. So,
wow.
What it comes down to is Lego Movie 2. It's charming and it's just as humorous as the first one. The animation style, it's nearly flawless and it's expanded on from the original because they kind of add like a whole new universe. They leave their world and go into a different world. The humor in the first film, it wasn't for everyone. Not for you, for sure, Jay. So if you found the original one to be eye-rolling and the humor to be too juvenile for a movie that was made for juveniles, you will find this one to be just as hard to watch. But luckily for me, I have a child's heart, and while not every joke will land, I did find myself laughing more and more as the film went on. When it started, I was not loving it in the same way I loved the original one, but I think it's because I was comparing it to the original one. It wasn't until the story got rolling that I really started just taking this one in for what it was. The music is just as toe-tapping, and it's laden with earworms like the original one was. And one of the nice parts is that the movie uses that to effect. It was its intent. These earworms from these songs burrow into you, and even after you find yourself on your way home from the theater, you're still humming the tunes and tapping your toes to it. In the end, everything that goes on in Lego Movie 2, it's just a wrapping that is meant for children and children at heart to latch onto. Lego Movie 2, it's another story about imagination of a child being used to cope with an emotional real-world issue. While the first was about the strife felt by a son towards his overly strict father, who ultimately succumbs to his inner child and rekindles his relationship with his son through toys and the power of imagination. This movie's real-world story, it's far more invasive and causes the story to feel more fragmented with its feet in both the Lego world and the real one. And that's where I really found, problems with it, was in the original one, the real world didn't bleed into it until the end. Expect it to kind of bleed in a whole lot more here. And that's kind of part of the course, because there was really no avoiding that. After the reveal in the original one, instead of a world of Lego existing on its own, it only exists in the imagination of a child. But unfortunately, the overuse of the real world does weigh the film down a bit, along with the fact that this one has an emotional lesson that is more or less the same, but remove the father and add sister. Ultimately, if you can get through the minor bits of sequel-itis and tap into your inner child, you're in for another fun ride with Lego Movie 2. So I give it a B+, ultimately. I still had a lot of fun with it.
Okay.
Some jokes are recycled, but I still think that if you like the first one, you're gonna have the same amount of time, the same amount of fun with this one. I think I gave the original one an A when I saw that before, and this one I'm giving a B+, only because of that sequel-itis and the fact that I don't think it balances matches the real world with the Lego world as well. And I really don't think that the emotional tie-in with the kids and their imagination is as strong as it was in the first one. Maybe that's because I'm a young man and maybe I can understand, melting the heart of a strict father.
Yeah.
And not so much because I've never had a sister. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I just found myself wanting a little bit more from that aspect, but also wanting less of it, if that makes sense, because it felt so invasive in this one.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got out there and you saw Lego Movie 2 and you disagree with my review at all, head over to Twitter and reach out to me. I want to know what you guys thought of that. So Jay, the other movie that I watched was Happy Death Day to You. Now, me and Lauren did not see Happy Death Day in the theaters. We were not, it looked very stupid. It's now free on demand, and we took the time and we watched the first one after we saw the trailer for this one, because I'm going to tell you, this one's marketing sucked me in hard.
Right?
Yeah.
I was going to say, because the trailer looks so self-aware and fun.
In a way that the original one wasn't.
Right. And that's why, I was kind of taken aback by that. I'm like, you know what? And not just the actors, but they got some confidence now with their project, and they know what to do with it now, I think.
I think in the same way,
even though I don't want to see it, but
it's like Fast and Furious. It took Fast and Furious 5 movies to get itself. It's like they did one movie and it was mediocrely received, and they went, you know what? We can do this and we can do it again and we can do it better. Mm-hmm. And it's exactly what they did. So Happy Death Day to You.
Killer is after me again.
Now I'm reliving the same day over and over. Except this time, everything is different.
He's not just coming after you. If you don't help, we're all dead for good, right?
Now I'm gonna have to die over and over again to save all of you.
Yeah.
Go, Shorty.
Who are you? I'm so done with this.
Tree Geldman is back to relive her birthday again, this time with a sci-fi twist. Watch Tree as she kills herself in multiple fantastic ways as she attempts to get to the bottom of the mystery of the repetitive day, save herself and her relationships that mean the world to her. And it's the same story again. It's recycled, but they added more to it this time. Mm-hmm. It's almost like Happy Death Day redone, more so than Happy Death Day 2. It's got a better story, hands down. I think adding that sci-fi element and bringing more characters in on the mystery allowed it to expand to different character types and allow for different character arcs that made it deeper and not deeper, like this is still shallow end of the of the pool, but it allowed for a little bit more growth, a little bit more development in its story. The character is more likable of Tree this time. In the first one, she was admittedly a bitch, and that's how she saw herself, and ultimately that gets resolved. But here she's far more likable, not just because she's on the other side of that, but because she's struggling with the two sides of herself. And then it added some more real emotional storylines this time around, where the first one was really just her coming to grips with, I believe it was her mother's death and her relationship with her father, and then falling in love with this boy. This time around, they really went a whole lot deeper with those emotional arcs with the character, and actually made you want her to get out of this death loop that she's in. And it ultimately, this is a concept movie, right? It's the girl dies every day in a different way and is reincarnated the next day to redo it all over again, just different this time. It's the same thing as Groundhog Day, right? It's concept. And they started with a concept and they built a story around it. This time it has a whole lot more fun with that concept, though. I think they did a far better job, having fun with it than trying to make like a horror movie. It seems like they kind of left.
That's what we need in February. Right. Come on.
But I think it's because they left, horror behind, and they kind of went more for like this horror comedy sci-fi blend that just really works. It meshes genres really well. And honestly, it's just a real dumb, self-aware, fun story that was better the second time around than it was the first time around. I think I originally gave Happy Death Day, the original one, like a C+. This one I'm giving a full letter grade up, B+, like all the way. B+. It's honestly fun to watch. I really enjoyed it more so than the first one. When me and Lauren watched,
it's like a dumbass who repeats, 10th grade again for the second year.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
You get it right the second time.
He does it right the second time. He enjoys it a little bit more. He understands it a little bit more. Like, it just seems to, sink in a little better.
I just think Blumhouse Productions is becoming more self-aware as a production company.
And I think it makes sense because Universal just gave them the reins to Dark Universe. Yeah. And it's going to be really exciting to see
I think that's gonna be awesome.
They go with that.
Yeah, and I think we know that in 2018 they had Upgrade. That was also a Blumhouse production.
Exactly.
I think they're kind of getting away from just thinking of themselves as a horror,
I think they
production company, and they're really expanding themselves out. Now, the core of horror and stuff like that, it'll always be there, but they're allowing themselves to expand out and get a little broader. And I think that's fantastic. I think that creates better stories. They didn't want to pigeon themselves in. Jason Blum is just branching everything out. Lee Whannell's, back with them and writing movies. He's the one that did Upgrade and stuff like that.
Well, I know they're very strict with the budgets. Which is fine.
That's fine.
Which is absolutely fine.
Me and you always say that sometimes just because you throw a big budget at it, that just means you wind up bloating it more. Sometimes you can get a whole lot more done with a lot less.
I was just very surprised that it took this long for them to start really being more self-aware and branching out into different kind of angles and different kind of properties and really just stretching their legs and trying and not be shy just to make something good.
I'm not
actually try.
I don't think that's the case. I think what it was they've always wanted to make good films. They've had a couple hits and they got, because you got to remember when they started, they were young. Blumhouse Productions was a young studio. It had young filmmakers working for it. They're all a little bit older. They all have a little bit more experience in the industry now, and they
got kids
know what
now,
works.
families.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about professionally wise. As far as their writing and everything goes, it's just gotten better. It's perfectly seasoned now, is what I'm saying. It feels right. So it's now like you look at things from A24 and you automatically think like, you don't think it's going to be great because it's A24, but it has your attention.
It's on my radar.
Right, it has your attention more. Now when I see Blumhouse, I'm like, all right, they still have all the awful ones that are getting put out on Hulu right now. A new movie every month in that series. Those are all terrible. I have not seen one that I've really liked, that I've truly liked. I've had one or two that I've tolerated, but I haven't had one that I really liked. And those have been going on since October. So, I feel like that's their cash grab. Throw the cash grabs on Hulu. Fuck it. And let's put some decent shit out in the theaters. I'm not saying Happy Death Day 2 is a masterpiece, but it's decent.
It'll draw butts into the theater.
It's worth your time in late February while you wait for Captain Marvel, Avengers, and all the other good shit that's going to be coming out this year. And while you wait for that stuff, you got small little gems like this.
You just gotta get through this butthole of a fucking award season, and then boom, all of a sudden it's summer season, and for blockbuster time.
And for all those people who don't give a flying fuck about awards and just want to have fun at the movies, Happy Death Day to you is there. If you got kids,
recipe.
You got kids, fuck it, take them to Lego Movie. If you're like me, you're going next week and you're going to see How to Train Your Dragon 3 because. God damn it, I'm gonna cry so much. My daughter's she's gonna, every time I cry at a movie, I cry.
Another good sleeping movie for me.
Every time I cry at an animated movie, Logan always looks at me and she goes, "Did you stub your toe?" And it's like, I don't know whether
adorable.
I don't know whether she's taking jabs at me. or whether she's honestly concerned for my emotional well-being.
She will be. Give it 5 more years. She will be.
You're such a bitch, Dad. Why are you crying? Who cares? Who cares if Hiccup's dead? I care. All he did was love that dragon. All right, Jay, me and you got a couple news stories that we got to run through. So let's get our serious news hats on and let's get into that role.
It's now time for the news.
Now it's time for the news. All right, Jay, we got a couple news stories to run through, but I want to run through one first that is not personal to me, but it did affect me personally. All right, so earlier this week, a website called Super Bro Movies They are at Super Bro Movies on Twitter. I want to stress that they are at Super Bro Movies on Twitter, and we are at Super Movie Pod on Twitter. We are Super Movie Bros Podcast. They are Super Bro Movies. Have I cleared all that up? Okay, good. Now people can stop sending me DMs on Twitter defending Rian Johnson over this, because I'm not the one that said this. So Super Bro Movies runs a movie news website and podcast, and they reported that Rian Johnson was no longer attached to a Star Wars trilogy, that his Star Wars trilogy had been scrapped, and that Disney was only moving forward with the Benioff and Weiss trilogy and no longer Rian Johnson's. Rian Johnson fired back, because everyone knows Rian Johnson fires back on Twitter. And he said, I absolutely am still working on it. He said, no, it's not true. I'm still working on the trilogy. And with all due respect to the movie bros, who I'm sure are lovely kind of bros, but it's false information pretty much. So what happened was over the weekend, this news story was actually earlier on last week, but over the weekend, I started getting DMs from people. These are people who follow us, or they followed me and then I followed them back, just so they could send me DMs vehemently spewing that I gave fake news out, or that I don't know how to fact check or check my sources. We don't, because we only really ever talk about confirmed news on the show.
Yeah.
We don't run a website where we put news out there.
Which is normally a couple days after the fact, so it's definitely confirmed.
Sometimes a week after the fact. Right. So we're only reporting news because we're adding our commentary to news. We are not sitting there and trying to be first to the story. We only do it as a way for us to commentate on what's going on in movie land. But I just want to say to those people, and I tried to explain myself several times, that I'm not Super Bro Movies. Most of them apologize and we're just like, sorry, bro. Sorry. It's like, and I did send them the correct Twitter handle to start vehemently screaming at, because I'm not one of those people that believes that you should reach out and start screaming at people on the internet about their flubs, or even about, oh, Rian Johnson ruined Star Wars because I hated The Last Jedi. I hate that stuff. That stuff bothers me to no end. And I don't like me not even being caught in the middle of it, or us not being caught in the middle of it, but still somehow having to field a question about it. And it just bothered me to no end, because some of these people's first messages, I won't repeat them here because I don't want to call anybody out, but some of their first messages to me were very unkind. With some super choice words about things that they couldn't even possibly know about me, that they don't know, but they're just saying slanderous things to be as hurtful as possible. And that's it. And it's one of the things that, like, this weekend I was like, my God. And it was only 3 or 4 people. It was not a lot of people, by the way.
But even still, but that's just like a taste of what, like, these big celebrities or wherever it might be, like, actually get.
I know.
Day in and day out, if they make a tiny little mistake. That's all it takes.
I didn't make the mistake.
I know.
Super Bro Movies made the mistake, not Super Movie Bros.
Crazy.
It's the difference of switching 2 words. Super Bro Movies, not Super Movie Bros. Jesus Christ. All right, Jay. Next news story. All right, Jay, first up in news. Remember how we were talking about Pirates of the Caribbean? They had the writers from Deadpool, and they were like, Pirates of the Caribbean reboot's got the writers from Deadpool. This is going to be awesome. Everyone loves Deadpool, right? The writers from Deadpool left.
Look, it's hard. It's hard writing these fucking Pirates of the Caribbean movies, apparently.
But every Pirates of the Caribbean movie, like, since, like, the first one has had
overly
reportedly
complex,
right, and has had reportedly troubled issues in production. And it's just fitting that the reboot, production
I know.
starts off this way.
I know. I don't know. They just gotta let it rest. It's been too soon.
Now, I don't know what...
If they really want to get rid of Captain Jack and start over again, they need to give it another couple of years at least, time apart from the previous movies.
Now it was... So it's not really a reboot. It's technically the 6th part of it. It's just going to take it into a completely different direction. So reboot's the wrong word to use for this film, number one. But, Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick were the two writers that are no longer involved with the film. I don't know whether they walked away or whether Disney let them go. I don't know what everything behind it was, but more than likely, Disney kind of wants this to be a big deal.
Well, it is a big deal. They have fucking, it's all over their theme parks. I mean, this is a franchise that's like in the realm of like Star Wars for them and all their other original properties. They want to keep this around.
My best guess, or at least theory, obviously not fact. Please don't, start yelling at us because I'm not saying this is beyond fact, but I'm just saying that my theory about this is Fox took a pretty hands-off approach to the whole Deadpool formula. They were just like, just whatever will be. Just, put it out there, show us some dailies, and let's add you a couple notes here and there, but mostly hands off. And I think what was going on with Disney was they were writing it and they were asking for rewrites and rewrites and rewrites. Add this. Can you fit this in? Can you make Jack Sparrow go to the Arctic Circle and then come back again? Can you make the world flat? Whatever they were asking for. Maybe the writers it just got to be too much and they're going to step away. Now, Disney owns all those scripts and they're going to continue using them. And the next writers who come in are going to work off those scripts.
Yeah.
Next news story. So we know that coming up is the Joaquin Phoenix Joker. We don't know a whole lot about that. And we could sit here and do, set photo breakdowns and trailer breakdowns and stuff of it, but all word is it's gonna be a pretty good movie. It seems like everyone is pretty much with the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, even though no one has said specifically that he is the Joker or specifically that anything
either
about
way, you just can't help but just be excited,
right? It seems like it's got the right people making it with the right actor in the role, and it seems like everyone's on board to make it a great film. Seems like Warner Brothers is pretty sure it's a great film because they are shelving Jared Leto's Joker movies that are in the works, and even apparently his character from showing up in Suicide Squad.
Wow.
In the soft reboot.
Wow.
Yep. So apparently the Joker Harley Quinn, the Joker Harley Quinn movie is no longer happening, and neither is the solo Joker movie.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So now out of the 16 movies that Warner Brothers is making, 16 is hyperbole. I understand that Margot Robbie was making for Warner Brothers. At least 2 of them are out now. She won't be in at least 2 of those ones. She still has Birds of Prey and Suicide Squad 2 coming out. With her in it, and I'm sure possibly even a Harley Quinn solo movie coming as well as probably a handful of cameos here or there. But it kind of tells you where they plan on going with the character, at least a little bit. I don't know whether Joaquin Phoenix would sign on to a multi-picture deal quite like Jared Leto did.
I don't think so.
But this also...
I think they actually confirmed that this is a one-off.
But this may also be a fallout to A, Ben Affleck leaving, but also B, the fact that Jared Leto was not so quiet about how unhappy he was with the Suicide Squad.
He's a bit of a prima donna. Yeah. He's a little bit of a high-maintenance actor, and a lot of people do know that already.
Right.
He goes, and does movies every once in a while, and he puts himself all into it. Now, I know he's trying to start off like this new character, Morbius, I believe, some kind of like vampire guy.
Morbius, the living vampire.
Yes, he's actually training right now in pre-production for that property right now. Right. So he's switching characters now.
But that is a Sony property through Marvel. It's a Marvel comic book character being made by Sony. That's them trying to expand that Spider-Man universe and stuff like that. And
he's changing houses up.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's fallout to that either. But no matter what is going on, Jared Leto is no longer going to be the Joker. And I, from what I can tell, a lot of people are going to be kind of happy about that. A lot of people didn't like those tattoos. They didn't like the grill. They didn't like the flare.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah. So I wasn't crazy.
I didn't hate it.
I wasn't crazy
but I didn't
about
like it.
I wasn't crazy about the look. I didn't mind the way he acted it. I don't think he was given enough in Suicide Squad.
He wasn't given enough.
He
really wasn't.
Right.
And you could tell how much was edited and cut out, and he even says it himself. And I don't blame him. I can't. I really don't blame Jared Leto for the Joker role per se almost anymore, because it was heavily edited and it was heavily cut out, and there could have been a lot of interesting things in there, but we never got to see it, unfortunately.
Next news story. All right, Jay, I kind of spoiled one by saying this in the last story, but Harley Quinn, who was reported to not be appearing in Suicide Squad 2, with her appearance in Birds of Prey taking precedence over that, she will apparently 100% be in Suicide Squad 2. Probably because, guess what? She was freed up because she no longer has to do a Harley Joker movie. Guess what? You got a free schedule. You're in. Tag, you're it. We signed you to a multi-picture deal. Let's wrap these up as quickly as possible. I'm wondering whether Warner Brothers is doing that. We're like, all right, we got some multi-picture deals. We got to get out of here. We got some stuff we already spent a lot of money on. Let's just roll the rest of this DCEU that we got in the tank out, and let's just move on to whatever we're doing. Solo stories that maybe occasionally will link up. It does seem like Warner Brothers will eventually take it in that route. The route I've been telling them to do the entire time. Make solo films or make a story around a group of characters or a character first. And if you wind up having it overlap with another character at some point, if a cameo makes sense or an actor coming in to play a character they played in a previous movie again, build your universe organically. Don't make it a strict universe the way MCU does. Just, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Don't fit round pegs into square holes. It just makes more sense that way. Next news story.
Army Hammer? No, he's not Batman.
So there was a bunch of rumors going around that Army Hammer was it.
Heavily credentialed. I mean, like there was some very up there sources.
Me and you had a long talk about this.
Dropped that news. I know.
A couple weeks ago, we talked about there's multiple studio. We always talk about the studio heads. There's more than one person running these productions and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people who have the power to leak news. And we've always talked about how what happens when one says, yes, it's okay to leak this news to this source and then they can publish it. And another one says, no, we don't want that coming out yet. And you have kind of like these dueling ideologies where one believes getting the news out ahead and getting people excited works, and other people think keeping it hush hush works better. It kind of seems like that happens a lot. And that's where these type of stories come from, where it's like Army Hammer's cast as Batman. It's either A, they didn't want to announce that yet, so they're recanting it, or B, he sat down for one fucking meeting and that's it. And someone overheard about that meeting or saw that meeting, and that was it. And that's it. I don't think Army Hammer is going to be Batman. I think he's too old for the Batman that they're trying to portray. I think
he was always on the very, very back burner of people's minds because of way back when George Miller casted him for his property to play Batman.
Again, we've talked about this before too, where we've said like a lot of times studios will leak that someone's been cast in a role so that they can say, that's the caliber of person we're looking for. Now other people of that caliber or close to it are willing to audition for it who previously weren't. Remember when Leonardo DiCaprio was cast as the Joker? Do you remember that? That was casting news a year ago, 2 years ago, before Jared Leto.
Bonkers.
Right. Oh no, I'm sorry. Before the Joaquin Phoenix one. They were talking about how Jared Leto, how that's who they were looking for. They were looking for Leonardo DiCaprio. And they put out this type of news, I think, because it gets other actors who are like, oh, DiCaprio, he's good. I'm good too. I'm going to try out for this role. It gets other.
Or this script must be amazing.
Right, yeah. Right. It gets a zeitgeist out there, and it gets other actors interested in doing it. And I think that's why they do it. I don't know 100% that that's why they do it. Sounds right to me though, and I'm always right.
No, I know that's true.
Next news story.
And once again, we have another casting. Jason Momoa and Josh Brolin being cast in the Dune franchise.
Hi, were you in a mildly successful film within the past 2 years? You're hired for Dune.
Oh, my Lord.
That's what it seems like Denis Villeneuve's doing. He's like, come here, let me see you. You're in.
Kind of.
What was your last box office? Close to $1 billion. You're in.
I don't blame him because you know what? All of his epic masterpieces are not making money.
Right.
They gotta make money somehow. Exactly. All these epic, all these $200 million epic sci-fi fantasy films that he's making masterpieces of for us lovers to enjoy for years and years and decades to come. They're not making any money in the theater.
That's right.
So they gotta do something. They gotta hire these bankable stars.
Next news story. All right, Jay. Gwyneth Paltrow has come out to say Avengers Endgame is her last go around as Pepper Potts. She's done.
Does anybody fucking care about Gwyneth Paltrow?
No, her multi-picture deal is
Are
up
you
after
kidding
this.
me?
She is open to the possibility of doing cameos. All of us just go, okay. Whatever. That's fine.
Nobody thinks so. I don't think of her.
No. I mean,
like
I like the character of Pepper Potts. That's not to say that I dislike it.
Just in spirit.
Just in spirit. No, I mean, I do like the character of Pepper Potts. I like the story between her and Iron Man. I like the relationship. I like the way that grew. She's not vital to it at all. She's not vital to the MCU. You know, it's not anything they need. I don't think any of these characters are vital. And I think, sure, her multi-picture deal is done, and you know, she's ready to go off and do other things. She's done other things. She has such a minor role that she's able to fit whatever the fuck else she wants while filming these movies. I do think that she said that, though, because I think she is going to have probably a more prominent role in Avengers Endgame than she's ever had before. But she said she is open to cameo. So don't think that it's the end for Pepper and Tony. They may both be doing some cameos here and there, but not being the stars of these movies because both their contracts are up. Next news story. And news that comes to no surprise to anybody, Netflix has officially announced that after Jessica Jones season 3, they will be done with Marvel television series. The Punisher is now officially canceled, as is Jessica Jones. So those two shows now join Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, and there will not be a Defenders season 2. And I think we all knew that was coming, obviously, with how quickly they were canceling those series after their final season runs. But I think it kind of now with Umbrella Academy shows where they're going to be going with the future. We had a news story, a little while ago where they were going to be doing a bunch of shows in the Mark Millar universe. They were going to be using a lot of Mark Millar creator-owned comics and creating TV shows out of that. So where the reason for this is not because like the production of Umbrella Academy is cheaper than the production for Daredevil or any of the other Marvel series. What it comes down to is the royalties that they pay on it and the rights to use those characters on their shows is going to be much cheaper. So while the production isn't going to be any cheaper, if anything, when watching Umbrella Academy, I thought that the production on that seemed like it was probably quite a bit higher than maybe some of those Marvel shows. But the royalties that they're paying and the rights to use those characters are far less than they are. So they're going to save a buck that way. And I kind of like that because as much as I'm a little bit saddened to see some of these Marvel shows go, I'm really interested in seeing some of these other, smaller, more indie comics getting created for the TV because, it shines a light on indie comics, which is, I do read comics, but I've gotten away from the big two as I've gotten older. Marvel and DC, I don't read so much anymore. I read a lot more of the indie comics, a lot of the creator owned comics. So I'm interested to see where Netflix continues going in this market. They're obviously not done with comic book TV shows and stuff like that, but I really want to see where they go from here, and I'm really excited for it because I think it'll help them kind of stand apart as well, especially with Disney Plus coming on the horizon. That's going to be creating Marvel shows of its own, and I think with them having this, it speaks to a more adult audience, and that's what they're going to have to do to stand themselves apart from the other big streaming service that's looming overhead. Next news story. All right, Jay, this is the final news story that I got. Disney's had a busy 2 weeks. They've wrapped production on 2 of their productions. Episode 9, title to be named soon, I suppose, has wrapped principal photography, as has the first season of The Mandalorian, the show that's being developed for Disney Plus with showrunner Jon Favreau. So they've both wrapped principal photography and are now going into effects and editing. So
right around the corner. Look out.
I know.
Late 2020.
So excited. Now, there was a set photo that came out for the wrap of the Star Wars episode 9, and it is
or maybe early 2020. What do you think? When do you think it's going to drop?
What? Mandalorian?
Yeah.
It's going to be a launch show for Disney Plus, which is in the fall of 2019.
Oh, in the fall. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's what they're shooting for. Fall 2019, I think is what they said. So,
cool.
So the set photo that was released was of Daisy Ridley, Oscar Isaac, and John Boyega all together hugging each other on what looks like a desert backdrop, Jay.
It does.
So it seems that they are either...
Oscar Isaac's hair looks so good.
So it seems like that they wrapped filming either at a location that's meant to be Tatooine or possibly Jakku. There might be some other possibilities in there, but it seems like they've brought their series full circle and are either ending it on Tatooine or Jakku, which is very fitting for the Star Wars universe to end where you begin. And I do like that. And I'm very, very excited now because if they've wrapped principal photography, that means they have enough for a trailer. And reportedly, the trailer will be dropping April 11th for episode 9, and that will be at Star Wars Celebration, and everyone else will be able to check out the trailer because it'll be running before Avengers Endgame, which means, Jay, me and you are getting ready to start talking some Star Wars a little more, and I've never been more excited. But I am also part of a Star Wars podcast now, so you can check out Good Morning Mos Eisley, where me and Wesley from Via VHS has started our own Star Wars podcast. So since I don't get to talk about Star Wars enough on Super Movie Bros, I get to do it over there. But we do a whole lot more over there than just report Star Wars news and discuss Star Wars topics. We're doing a lot of in-world skits. We are doing fake, like fake in-world news stories. We're playing characters and stuff like that. We're kind of treating it like, our feet in both worlds, the real world and the world of Star Wars, where we have a lot of fun with the Star Wars property at its expense.
Beautiful.
So if you'd like, check out Good Morning Mos Eisley. Jay, let's head over, man, and let's get into some fucking beers, because I'm getting thirsty. Welcome back to the beer segment. Me and Jay got 2 beers that we're going to be reviewing for you, but before we do that, we got to drop a line to our sponsor, Blowfish. Blowfish is the only FDA-approved hangover cure. What it is, 2 tablets that you drop into 8 to 12 ounces of water, drink it down, and your hangover starts to fade away. So if you went to the Philadelphia Tattoo Convention this weekend and you saw far too many pantsless and or shirtless overweight men getting badass tattoos put on them, and you just wanted to wash that out of your mind with a couple glasses of whiskey and you had a few too many, then you're going to want to try out Blowfish. Head over to 4hangovers.com. Use our promo code SMBFish for your 15% off. All right, Jay, as we've been doing, we have another indie pod that we got to put a spotlight on. And since we are doing our top 5 movie heroines, I decided I wanted to put a spotlight on some podcasts that are hosted and produced by all women. So the one that we have this week comes from the Brook Reading Podcast.
Do you read books? Do you live by small bodies of water surrounded by trees and other wildlife? Is that geese shit? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, you have found a home here at the Brook Reading Podcast. Each week, I read a book while nestled in my small New Jersey apartment and gaze out the window at a brook. Then I jump online, talk about it, ask for your opinions, and bitch about something for approximately 5 minutes. If you would like to join this madness, check out the Brook Reading Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, or on the Radio Public app. Let's step into some animal feces together.
All right, so that's Melissa from the Brook Reading Podcast. Jay, unfortunately, cannot enjoy this podcast because it does involve some literary prowess, and Jay has read a book since Say Cheese and Die, Goosebumps number 3.
And I would be very lost.
But if you want to check out Brook Reading Podcast because you're a fan of literature, maybe go peruse it, check out some of the books that you've enjoyed and see Melissa's thoughts on it. Or maybe you just want to hear that sultry, smooth female voice in your ears because it's very relaxing, and Melissa is honestly funny and brings some great literary critiques your way. So make sure that you check out the Brook Reading Podcast on all of your podcatchers. All right, Jay, we got 2 beers that we got to review. Why don't we get started with yours, man? What beer do you have for us this week?
I have Dogfish Head, The Perfect Disguise. It's a double IPA, 8% alcohol by volume, and fun little design in this bottle, actually. And as soon as you open it up, it has a beautiful smell to it. It's a little darker in color, and it's a double dry hop, and it has a nice mouthfeel that turns into a citrus kind of explosion towards the back end. So it's not too bitter, and it's got a nice little balance of dry hop and fruity notes to it, and I'm really enjoying this one. It's a good little surprise. It's a little off center. It's not a normal double IPA, but it's a good, tasty one, worth a try. I'm going to give it a 3.75 out of 5.
All right, and I am drinking the Victory Hop Wallop IPA. This is a 7.5 alcohol by volume IPA. It is brewed with Citra and Simcoe hops and has fruity, earthy notes. And I can tell you that 100% there are earthy notes in this. Right up front, it has a nice floral smell, but it's not too overpowering. It still has that Pilsner flavor to it, like right up front, little bit of the hops and barley getting in there. So it's not overpowering you with the hoppiness. You do get the hoppiness and a little bit of the bitter in the middle, and it finishes off very crisp. However, when it does finish off, that's where you really get those earthy notes, and you kind of start tasting that pine that is in there a little bit. It's not as perfectly balanced as I would say, as you described yours. So I'm going to be giving mine probably about a 3. I do enjoy it. It's not a bad beer. It's just Victory makes better beers, and I don't think that this would be any of those mainstays that I would actually go to more often than just having the occasional one offhand. I do like how Victory on their bottles, though, they do list the beer master who came up with the recipe. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I do like that. Now you can start following. You can start following beer masters.
It's kind of smart,
right? Like the way like people follow like certain directors or actors.
Actually, it's really smart for the brewmasters because they can become celebrities of their own.
That's right.
And start traveling around.
I'm sure in their world, some of them are.
Oh, I'm sure they are. Yeah.
All right, Jay.
Actually, you know what? We can create a TV show.
No. No, it sounds like a reality TV show. It sounds stupid.
It is.
Yeah, see. All right, Jay, let's head over and let's get into our top 5 movie heroines. This is going to be tough for you, man, because you're not known to be showing women too much respect. You know what I'm saying? So I decided to come up with a segment where I forced you to.
Oh, my goodness.
Jay, it's been a long time since me and you got into doing the top 5 game, but we are back. We're doing top 5 female heroines in movies, and I absolutely love the fact that I sent you what we were doing for a list, and you sent me back heroine ? And I was like, Jesus Christ, man. I also sent Lauren the same screenshot, and she's like, it's You know, I told you how I read the I was reading the Game of Thrones spin-off novellas, the Tales of Dunk and Egg, and I said you would be the perfect Sir Duncan the Tall. Not only because you're tall, but because he's described in the book as Dunk the Lunk and thick as a castle wall.
I agree.
You fit the character so well. So I did send you a screenshot of the definition of a heroine, and it is a woman admired or idealized for her courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities, or the chief female character in a book, play, or movie who is typically identified with good qualities and with whom the reader is expected to sympathize. So we're doing our top 5 movie heroines, and I tried to run a little bit of the gambit on my list. I wanted the badass, sure, but I wanted some other ones that really exemplified other qualities other than just being a badass. Yeah, badass stuff is cool. It's really cool. But on the other hand, there's other things that characters can do that are badass in their own way, just in the way that they act.
Right. And I kind of wish I had a little bit more time thinking over this list.
We had the same amount of time.
I'm just not. I'm
Dunk
I'm,
the
I'm,
lunk
I'm,
thick as a castle wall.
I just feel like I'm drawing blanks on some really good roles, really good characters out there that I'm missing.
You might
not
be.
so much in the badass realm, but like actually in more of a more interesting realm.
You might be, but for better or worse, this is the list that you came up with, and you'll stand behind it, and you still get honorable mentions to throw in there as well. So let's get started, Jay, with number 5. Who is your number 5 movie heroine? Not the drug. We're not looking for Jennifer Connelly in Requiem for a Dream, which is what you originally thought this list was for. An exemplary female in a film, Jay.
I got to start off with Katniss from The Hunger Games.
I volunteer as tribute.
Okay, Katniss. I get it. Badass though. No.
Well, I mean,
so
she becomes a badass.
No,
like
there's
over time, because like
Yeah.
she's not really a badass. She's really just a family woman that just really is just trying to save her sister.
She also becomes the
Sacrificing herself.
the unwanting symbol for a rebellion and stuff. You know.
She's the unknown hero of this world in this time period, and it was one of those things where. I think Jennifer Lawrence does such a great job with portraying that authenticity and throughout a trilogy. I mean, this is not, or even 4 movies. I'm not even exactly sure. I think it's 4 movies.
It's technically 3 movies, with the last one being a part 2, the same way Harry Potter did Deathly Hallows and stuff like that.
4
But
movies.
but no, I think you're right, because while she is a badass and she does do some things that you could say are badass, but she is a fully fleshed out character who develops throughout these 3 films. And by the end, for better or worse, and I would say she's probably worse off by the end of these films with her emotional scarring and stuff like that, her perseverance through everything is something to be admired, and something that's, I think they did a great job with her character in the book more so than the movies, but I think the movies, still did a great job. I think Jennifer...
I think so too.
I think she was the right person to play it.
It was a very surprising franchise for me, because I really was impressed with the balls it had and how they pulled it off. So kudos to them, and kudos to this character. I think she's great.
All right, perfect. My next one is a badass. It is Furiosa from Mad Max.
Honorable mention for me.
Yeah, Fury Road.
This is our Furiosa. How long has it been?
7,000 days. Plus the ones I don't remember.
I really love Charlize Theron in this role, because when you watch the film, the title, the name of the film in the fucking title is Mad fucking Max, but that's not who that movie was about. Furiosa was the character. Sure. He was a character in her story, and that's what I really liked, and I liked the idea that she came from this Amazonian type, place where women were in charge and stuff like that, and she taps back into that. She taps back into that womanhood, and she goes back to do the right thing and to take out Morton Joe. And yeah, she's a badass, but there's a whole lot more that goes on with her in that. And I do find her character the most interesting person in that movie. And, I can't get enough of it. And I think she looked fantastic in the role. And I was very upset when they said that they weren't going to be doing the Furiosa movie like they had planned to do. 'Cause I did want to spend more time with her character. I think, she deserved a little bit more fleshing out and stuff like that. And there was so much more to explore with her than could be explored. All right, Jay, what is your number 4?
This might be a little surprising, but I'm actually going to go with Brie Larson with a short-term 12. Does that qualify?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Because
I mean, this might be a cop out, because this is my world. This is where I work in. This is my wheelhouse. And I do feel like there are many people in that world that are heroes. And people really bow down to me sometimes, who I mention what I do for a living, and they literally are like dumbfounded, like, wow, you really do that excuse me, for a living? And it's like, yeah, and people like really are taken back by it and really impressed. And you know, it's not a greedy job. It's you're not making money.
No,
it's a very selfless job, and you're really doing or trying to do as much as you can for people who aren't as able to.
But also, the film tackles some huge issues that face women today and stuff like that. So
exactly, women today, and then but also taking charge and trying to make the most of their situation, but also the situation of others, not just herself. And it's a great performance. It's a great breakout performance for an actress. And it's also a world that I think that, you know, it shined a nice light on.
Yeah, I think you're worried about honesty. You're worried about it, but you gave this to me for a movie homework, and I would say that this fits the criteria. I enjoyed the hell out of the movie, and I encourage anyone to go see Short Term 12. I think it's probably one of Brie Larson's best roles that she's done. So
yes.
All right, Jay, my number 4, Police Chief Marge from Fargo.
I'd be very surprised if our suspect was from Brainerd.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, from his footprint, he looks like a big fella.
You see something down there, Chief?
No, I just think I'm gonna barf.
Jeez. You okay, Margie?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just morning sickness. Well, that passed.
Oh, yeah?
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah? Yeah.
Oh, God.
I absolutely love... So, I love Fargo, the movie.
Sure.
I love the entire Midwest world that the Coen brothers built there. But, you know, you got to remember, like, she is a pregnant woman who goes out there and does all of this. And there's nothing more powerful than that. But I just think her as a character, you know, she's the pants in her family, right? Like, she's the take charge one. She's the one who, you know, it's not one of the first times in the movies that you saw this, but it was very prominent, and I think it was very deliberate on the Coen brothers' part to make her this type of character. You know, there's, you know, where they say like she's not a woman that you're used to seeing in movies, and I really loved her character because not only was she you know, strong-willed and stuff like that, but she was smart and she was crazy funny.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of the scenes, like a lot of her interrogation scenes are just, they're laughable, not because of her, but because of the stupidity of others. She really did like a Columbo thing with people where like she took dumb people and got them to tell her exactly what she wanted them to. I loved Fargo, and I loved Frances McDermott as, you know, Chief Marge. All right, Jay, what is your number 3?
Hannah. I love Hannah. Hannah, this movie is a Joe Wright directed film, stars Saoirse Ronan, and this is one of those movies that is now brought to the TV show.
I hated this movie. They made
it just came out, I think, or it's coming out very soon.
It's an Amazon Prime TV series. Yeah,
Amazon. Okay, cool.
I hated this movie.
I love it. It's one of those I don't want to say guilty pleasure. I thought it was stylish, very fun, very interesting, because it's kind of a sci-fi movie of some sorts, because she is somewhat genetically enhanced to be a super assassin. And she's 16 years old. She's been growing up in the middle of the wilderness with her father, who just kind of shows her how to survive and how to be a great hitman and know how to be a perfect specimen of that sorts, but doesn't know the intricacies of the day-to-day life. And then when she gets brought into that world, it's kind of like a coming-of-age story. I love this movie. I threw this on a million times. It's one of those things I just throw on a lot. I enjoy the hell out of this movie, and I enjoy the idea of this character and exploring this a little bit more.
Look, I can't not. I love Willow, so what the fuck do I know? All right, Jay. My number 3 is Hermione Granger, man.
Look who's here. Ah, come to see the show.
You foul, loathsome, evil little cockroach!
Hermione, no! He's not worth it. Malfoy, you okay? Let's go. Come, quick. Let's go. Run. Not a word to anyone, understood?
That felt good.
Not good. Brilliant.
I like I said a few times, I'm a recent convert to Harry Potter. I was never big into the world. I got big into the world this year, and I really like I guess in 2018 I got big on it, but I really like the character of Hermione Granger. Like she stands in a room and she is immediately the smartest person standing in that room. And she doesn't have those smarts because she's just naturally gifted with them. She works hard at everything that she gets in Hogwarts, and any little bit of praise. And then even then, she's still kept down by other wizards because she's half Muggle. She's a half blood, and that bothers people to no end in that world. And she stands up through all that perseverance and still becomes one of the strongest, not only characters in the story, but just overall has one of the strongest characters at that school. Like, she is unrelentingly resolute. And I absolutely love her character throughout the entire series. And I think, I wasn't crazy about where they put her towards the end of those movies in the Deathly Hallows, but leading up to it, I did really enjoy her character in the films, and kind of like watching her grow up and stuff like that, and becoming more than just the girl that was a mild foil to Harry and to Ron, and becoming one, not one of the guys, but becoming her own character in her own right, and not just the female sidekick of these two. All right, Jay, what is your number 2?
The girl with the dragon tattoo, Elizabeth Salander.
He's had a long-standing sexual relationship with his co-editor of the magazine. Sometimes he pleasures her. Not often enough, in my opinion.
I figured this would be on your list. I'm surprised it's not number 1.
No, it's not. But I just really find it so interesting because you don't get. First of all, I would say it's fair to say that a lot of males don't know many females like her. As far as being remote, lesbian, or actually I spy bisexual, but also just very hard-edged, very lonesome, very solitary, very whip smart, very just badass in so many different kind of ways. And it's something that I find so intriguing.
I would say more women feel like her on the inside.
No, I know that, and I agree with that.
Than actually exist or portray it from the outside. Because I think like there's a lot of like, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, wish fulfillment in her role, because she takes ownership of the abuse that she's had and she turns it outwards towards the abusers. Right. And there's a lot of strength in that.
And it's one of those things where, for example, at least with the Fincher movie, when Daniel Craig asks, would you like to help track down a man who kills, women? And it's something that just it intrigues her. It's just one of those things where, it's ingrained in her because of her upbringing, and she's very smart, and she's very capable of doing these things and being an investigative. And
because of her own trauma, she's attached to it.
The trauma that we see in these movies, and how she pulls through it and how she handles those things. And man, she gets back at the man. And it's a lot of fun to watch, and it's a great series.
Some would argue she's a vigilante and doesn't exactly handle it in the proper way, but
perhaps. But it's a fun watch.
But hey, we all work through our shit in our own ways. Am I right?
Yeah, you do. We certainly do.
Sometimes we tie men up and we tattoo rapist across their chest. Other of us, we move on, go to therapy, and just become productive members of society. Some would argue that she is a productive member of society. I think it's a good pick. I never loved that movie as much as you love it. I do enjoy the movie, but she's not someone that I look to and I went, that's what women aspire to be. But for me, my number 2, Jay, is Ripley from, I want to say specifically Aliens, more so than Alien.
Get away from her, you bitch!
I love Lieutenant Ellen Ripley. She's obviously one of the most iconic female heroines, and she is played by one of the most iconic, female sci-fi actors. Sigourney Weaver as that role has launched her into so many other roles that portray her in a similar light or poke fun at that and stuff like that and have fun with it. She's really been able to build a career off of it in her later years and stuff like that. But I just love Ellen Ripley. I mean, once she gets to the planet in Aliens and stuff like that, she's very much a passenger. She's very much a voyeur on everything that's going on, and she's around these Marines that are all gung ho, and everything those Marines are doing, it's all fake machismo. They're all playing at being the tough guy, but when shit starts really going down, they all fall apart. But when a child's in danger, who she takes on as kind of like her surrogate child, a real like hero is born in her, and she's the one that goes into the mouth of madness, into danger.
She does
to rescue Newt, and then she puts on that fucking badass mess suit. And I love Ellen Ripley, especially in Aliens more so than anything else. All right, Jay, do you have any honorable mentions that you want to run through before you get to your number one?
The Fifth Element, obviously. I think Lilo was always one of my fun 90s heroines that I always really enjoyed watching.
She's very much like River from Serenity.
Really cool.
She's very much like River from Serenity, but you didn't like Serenity.
I did not. Kudos to that movie more than Serenity, because they pulled it off better. But I thought it was really cool. She definitely was up there. Hit Girl from Kick-Ass franchise, definitely also a good candidate for me, and obviously Black Widow. So those were the three ones I had on my list as well.
All right, man, my honorable mentions are Sarah Connor. The reason she doesn't make the full list is because I think there is something admirable about her strength and her willingness to be prepared and her willingness to protect her child. But there's also a streak of crazy that I'm that I don't like. Like, who wants to aspire to be the woman who raises their kid in a military compound, teaches them to fire guns, to ultimately go on to rule, to lead the human race against the machines and stuff like that? Like, no one wants to take no one wants to take on that role, but she did it. And for better or worse, John survives and goes on to do that. Fa Mulan from Mulan. I mean, think about this girl, man. She took her father's place in the Chinese army to go against the Huns, fought against men, and ultimately, at least in the story of the Disney movie Mulan, saves China and becomes an icon. The Bride from Kill Bill. Nothing's better than a bloody dish of revenge, man. And she serves it up real well. And then, of course, my number one is actually Mrs. Incredible. Specifically for Incredibles 2, because when it comes time to bring superheroes back, they choose her because not only is she the most capable, but she's also the most level-headed out of her, Frozone, and Mr. Incredible. If they wanted spectacle, they'd go with Mr. Incredible. If they wanted a show of power, like these type of superpowers, they'd go with Frozone. But what they really wanted was someone who was relatable to the people, and Mrs. Incredible is that. She's relatable. She's a mother, but she's also just as resolute in fighting crime and being a superhero as the men are, and she really proves that she's the right person for the job in that movie. And I really respect Pixar and their creation of that character. All right, Jay, what is your number one movie heroine?
Mine actually is the Bride from Kill Bill.
All right.
You and I have unfinished business.
Baby, you ain't kidding. Huh. Plan A taught you the 5-point palm exploding heart technique.
It's probably one of my most rewatched films. It's one of those things where I think, we can all agree with her world, but also just with that, can you imagine being like pregnant and then waking up with no baby and being killed?
Neither of us could ever imagine being pregnant, Jay. It's just not,
right. Again, it's unimaginable. And then,
especially for us.
And then trying to be gunned down on the night, the day before your wedding, and all of your loved ones gone, dead. From the people that you used to be completely close with and love and work with, and thought there was some kind of a truce and a fatherly figure way with the with her master of some sort, and then
or her lover who put a baby in her belly.
Right.
That's a weird thing. He's both your master, he's both your father figure, and he's your lover.
Well,
how Southern of her.
That's Quentin Tarantino for you right there.
Little reverse Oedipus complex going on.
It's very Alabama. So
we shouldn't be so insensitive to our people, to people from the South. That's not what the South is like.
I have family in Alabama.
It's Targaryens. That's how Targaryens are. Yes. I think it's a good choice. Like I said, I kept it on my honorable mentions because it's more of like the badass woman.
It's very much straight up revenge badass, but she does it so well. And Uma Thurman just kills it. It kills it, and put in all these fucking dire situations, and just seeing her get through and pull out of it, and it's just engagingly engrossing and fun and badass. The fight sequences, the deaths, the kills, the sword fights, the fucking it's a cool movie. I think she's an iconic character, and I 100% stand behind this one. For me, I think as far as I know, this one stands up the test of time.
Can you guess what my number one is?
I can actually.
It's kind of super easy. She can both throw down with the guys when she has to, and fight the fight when she has to.
Princess Leia, I guess.
But she's also a diplomat and a leader.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
I don't know who you are or where you came from, but from now on, you do as I tell you. Okay?
Look, your worshipfulness. Let's get one thing straight. I take orders from just one person, me.
So one day he's still alive.
Luke is a Jedi. He's a warrior, but he's not a politician. Han is a scoundrel, and he comes in handy when you need him. But Leia is the leader in Star Wars. She's the one that goes on to be the political leader. She's the one with the ideals. She's the one that brings the rebellion to Luke and to Han, recognizes what they can add and the good they can do to the galaxy, and brings that out in them. But she also throws down on the Death Star too, man. And even in the newer trilogy, she's no longer carrying a blaster, and she's no longer going on the missions, but she's still just as strong in her political role as a leader as she was, as any type of warrior. And I absolutely love the character of Princess Leia. I don't think I could imagine anyone else being her but Carrie Fisher. And I don't think anybody more exemplified, who is literally the only strong female character in Star Wars original in films, other than they add Rey now. And whether you want to argue whether Rey is a strong female character or not, Leia was it. She did it right. She was not reliant on the boys to do anything for her, and when it came to certain things, she was the best person for the job. Mm-hmm. And she's one of my favorite characters in the Star Wars trilogy, and someone who, when I watch movies with my daughter, that's the type of woman that I'd be like, that's who you can be. You could be the girl who picks up the blaster and you can get into the fight, but you can also be. And
I'm being serious.
You can also be the
Logan
diplomatic.
is on her way to becoming her.
She could very easily become Sarah Connor or the Bride.
She could become that too. She can go either way. So she can take one path or the other path.
So better or worse, those are our list for our top 5 movie heroines. If you have any other ones that you would like to add to the list,
please hit us up, because I really want to hear everybody else's opinions.
You can just reach out to us on on Twitter at Super Movie Pod or on Facebook, Super Movie Bros Podcast on there. If you want to check out our Patreon only movie cocktail with Sean from WDIM Podcast, you can head over to patreon.com/Super Movie Bros Podcast. And just for $1, you'll get all the additional content that we put up there, including this month's movie cocktail. We also have a sponsor. Our sponsor is Blowfish. So if you enjoy that cocktail from Patreon just a little bit too much, you can head over to forhangovers.com, use the promo code SMBFish, get 15% off your order, and start curing the scourge of hangovers forever. We're part of a network. We're part of the Podfix Network. So make sure you head over to podfixnetwork.com. Check out all the great shows that are part of the Podfix Network over there. The first episode of Good Morning Mos Eisley is up with me and Wes. So I encourage everyone to go on iTunes or any podcatcher to check out Good Morning Mos Eisley. We got more stuff coming. The show will continue to evolve. I think me and Wes have a new, fun, interesting way to start taking it in episode 2. But, we still want you to head out there and enjoy episode 1. And I want to thank everybody for listening tonight. Have a great night. Cheers.
Cheers.